Welcome to the year 2026. We are entering the part of AI development that's basically this. Let me zoom in. This green line, that's a dumb human. This yellow line, that's Einstein, right? So basically, we're currently witnessing AI's ability kind of going across this line, and we're kind of slowly going from, oh, that's cute, that's adorable, to WTF. So you've probably seen announcements around this. Basically, there's this very well-known mathematician. His name is Paul Erdős, I believe is the pronunciation, and basically has a collection of
Oh,
open math problems referred to as the Erdős problems. And he describes these problems as these acorns which require deep and subtle insights from which a mighty oak can develop. So it's basically very difficult problems that have not been solved up to this point. They have not been solved by humans. That is the Erdős problems. And currently, there are 1,135 problems in the database, and 40% of them have been solved. But here's what's happening right now, like literally right now, within the last few days, AI autonomously solved one of these problems. And within the last few hours, it solved yet another one. Now, you've probably seen a lot of a few hours.
full solution lean using arguments similar to Pomeranz 2015. But this one says here it used a modification to the solution of the previous, which is this one here. I'm curious about what this means here, Pomeranz 2015.
It solved yet another one. Now, you've probably seen a lot of announcements like this recently. Some of them seem like they're controversial. Some of them turn out to be wrong or overstated. So I know a lot of us kind of just started ignoring the noise. This one, as of right now, we're fairly confident it's legit. This is Terence Tao, considered by many as one of the greatest mathematicians living today. Currently, he's a professor.
All right, so here you see it's written more or less autonomously by AI after some feedback from an initial attempt. In the spirit of the problem as reconstructed by the Erdos problem website community, with the result, to the best of our knowledge, not replicated in existing literature, although similar results proven by similar methods were located. This is a demonstration of the genuine increasing capability of these tools in recent months and is largely consistent with other recent demonstrations of AI using existing methods to resolve Erdos problems, most likely. I mean, there's no, there hasn't been like a new model that came out, right? So they're just changing certain approaches. They're changing certain approaches, but because of the way that it is, fundamentally, I don't think there's any intelligence in here.
Professor at UCLA. He's considered to be the Mozart of mathematics. I pulled up some data from Gemini 3, so it sounds like at the age of 2, he was teaching other children how to count using wooden blocks. He learned from Sesame Street, and then at 2 years old was teaching other kids to count. Age 9, taking university level math courses. Kind of a leap, it seems, but. And by age of 10, he became the youngest person ever to compete in the International Mathematical Olympiad. It took him a couple of years, but by age 13, he won the IMO gold medal. To this day, he remains the youngest gold medalist in history. So, again, credible figure that we can kind of trust. If he thinks this is happening, we can assume, it's happening. I believe there are some reviews still.
It really depends on what you mean by this is happening, because it does say that, you know, it was not autonomous.
Going on, and maybe we'll get some news back later. But at this point, I think it's pretty reasonable to call it. Here's what Terence Tao is saying. He's saying recently the application of AI tools to Erdős problems passed a milestone. And Erdős problem number 728 was solved more or less autonomously by AI after some feedback from an initial attempt. In the spirit of the problem, as reconstructed by the Erdős problem website community, with the result, to the best of our knowledge, not replicated in existing literature, although similar results proven by similar methods were located. So this is important because not replicated in existing literature. So there were some previous claims that these AI models, ChatGPT, I think, solved some new thing or provided some proof. In reality, just did some research, found some proof online that somebody else has written and kind of reproduced it. This, as far as we can tell, this is the real deal. So it didn't find some previously existing solution elsewhere.
Because here the part that says similar results proven by similar methods were located, that means that, it's nothing new, right?
The real deal. So it didn't find some previously existing solution elsewhere. It did so in the spirit of the problem.
I mean, it doesn't feel like it's that crazy. The whole point of algebra, or like the what's it called? The quadratic formula. There's a formula, right? And you just shove the values inside and then you get the result. If you have the formula and you just apply it to something else, does that make you intelligent? I don't think so.
As far as I can tell, if I understand correctly, in the original kind of a phrasing by Erdős, there was some loophole. He didn't phrase it quite in such a way as to close all the loopholes, basically allowing there to be a trivial solution, right? So, kind of if you were willing to kind of lawyer your way into it, it's like, oh, well, actually, you forgot to do this. So, therefore, this is a basic solution. So,
You, just you, building your app on base 44. Describe it.
assuming that's not the case, assuming that Erdős didn't mean for that simple solution to exist, that cheat code solution, you had to solve it in the proper way, so to speak. This AI did it in that fashion, right? So it didn't use a loophole. And finally, so this is a little bit cut off, but I think this is a very important thing to understand. So Terence Tao is saying this is a demonstration of the genuine increase in capability of these tools in recent months. So that's important to understand. It's recent months. He's not kidding. These are brand new results from fairly brand new models. This is brand new territory that we're entering. This capability is new. That's why I started with that graph of that person kind of being shocked by how quickly those things shot up. By the way,
I don't
Terrence
know.
did post his entire post on Mastodon, which is here. I'll have a link down below if you read it. And we'll look at another part here that I think is interesting. We'll come back to that because he's specifically talking about, as he says, a story which he finds more interesting than the solution itself, which is the emerging AI powered capability to rapidly write and rewrite expositions of the solution. All right, so January 7th, AI solves problem number 728. So fun times, but wait, there's more. This is a Neil Somani, so he's a QR at Citadel, so he's doing a quantitative research at, this large investing trading firm. So again, one of the higher end math guys, if you will. He had some time over the weekend, it seems. So he's saying, weekend win. The proof I submitted to Erdős problem number 397 was accepted by Terence Tao. Again, that's not the same problem we were just talking about. That was a 728. This is a 397. All right. So over the weekend, another problem got cracked and accepted by Terence Tao. So Neil continues, the proof was generated by GPT 5.2 Pro and formalized with Harmonic. Many open problems are sitting there waiting for someone to prompt ChatGPT to solve them. How crazy is that? This seems like it's not priced in, if you will. I don't think people are fully grasping what this means, right? We all have this Chat GPT or whatever other LLM, the chatbot is in front of us, and slowly over time they're getting a little bit smarter and smarter. And now they're at a point where
That has to be fundamentally incorrect. it can't get smarter if you have to retrain the whole model. I mean, I just wrote it because I wanted to write it more than anything else. But no, GPT 5.2 is not the last version that OpenAI will train. Obviously not, right? OpenAI has clear roadmap for future models, including the anticipated release of GPT-6, which is going to be still a whole bunch of shit. The most that it will do is mimic uh, humans, but it is not human. It is not intelligent like a human, right? This is misleading. So if it was intelligent, it would not need to have these different approaches implemented around the same model, right? That's where they came up with the chain of thought and all these methods for it to feel or behave differently. But if it really was intelligent here, ChatGPT 5.2 Pro would be the last version. There would be no need for any other version. It would just keep learning, right?
Where, like he says here, there's many open problems that we have as humans, right? Those problems that we haven't been able to solve for 50 years. Specifically, the best and brightest people, mathematicians, that weren't able to solve for 50 years. And now, if we plug it
I mean, does that mean that for 50 years everybody tried to solve these problems? Are those problems? So they made many famous mathematical conjectures over a wide field of subjects. In mathematics, a conjecture is a proposition that is preferred on a tentative basis without proof. Some conjectures, such as the Riemann hypothesis or Fermat's conjecture, have shaped much of mathematical history as new areas of mathematics are developed in order to prove them. I mean, it doesn't say here that these are the hardest things to prove, right? I mean, unsolved, it doesn't mean that it's impossible or super hard, right? Maybe it is an accomplishment. It might be, honestly, but to me, it doesn't look like it.
into that little chatbot that just sat there getting smarter, all of a sudden it can crack those problems.
Getting smarter, you know? That's the type of language that makes no sense. This is why everybody gets confused.
Greg Brockman from OpenAI jumps in saying great work. So Neil's saying that only GPT 5.2 Pro was able to do it. By the way, a few weeks ago, this is around Christmas time, 2025, this person, I wasn't following this too much, so I apologize if I missed some details. So this is David Budden, and he posted that he believed that he could solve the Navier-Stokes Millennium Prize, meaning that he had a solution to the Navier-Stokes smoothness and existence problem. Marcus Hutter bet $10,000 that David Budden will not solve the Navier-Stokes Millennium problem, right? So that, this is the manifold markets everybody's betting. So a lot of people were saying that this person, David, is suffering from LLM psychosis. So he basically talked to these LLMs long enough to where it convinced him that he found some magical solution, and he's kind of like losing it.
Yeah, because this has happened, right? Some people came out with this exact scenario. They learn about a specific formula that was supposed to solve I don't know what, but apparently this guy's
Those
fine.
are the things that people were suggesting. So I'm not 100% sure what's happening with this bet. I mean, the bet was lost, but it seems like he's still working on the problem. So no clue what's happening there. But we did in just a few weeks go from, this man that thinks that an LM solved some mathematical equation or some math problem. Like, obviously he's crazy, right? That was a few weeks ago, to now where, no, of course it's true, as confirmed by, people at Duke. You are at Citadel, one of the greatest living mathematicians of all time. And, a lot of people in the mathematics community, the Erdish problem community, etc., are all kind of confirming this fact. Yes, recently AIs crossed that threshold. But here's yet another thing that kind of, I think, illustrates where we are. So this is Terence Tao's GitHub page. He's got a specific section where he talks about the AI contributions to Erdish problems. He's got multiple kind of categories here. So one is AI generated solutions, partial solutions, or negative results for previously open problems, right? So the red is where the LLM produced an incorrect result. It's funny, they're using ChatGPT, the free version here, so maybe that's why. I don't know. Interestingly, AlphaVolve, so that was Google's model, it had a slight improvement to a past.
I mean, if it's so smart, why would there be like this discrimination between these versions? Why isn't it the same version that just evolved, you know?
Construction, right? So it's a partial solution that's an improvement. Notice the dates on this. So this is the end of 2025. ChatGPT 5.2 in, just a few days ago in 2026 had a partial solution to problem number 486. AlphaEvolve at the end of 2025 had a, they're calling it a partial solution to problem 507. And actually, this, I believe, was the first Erdish problem solved by, ChatGPT or an LLM. This was at 728. A few days later, we had 729. The one solved by Neil using GPT 5.2 Pro, that was number 397. That's not even in here yet.
Why did he say solved by that dude if it's the
As far
model
as I
who
can tell,
did
so this
it?
hasn't been updated yet. But notice there's like this wave, like this wall that is just, beginning to solve these problems. Yes, some of them are wrong, some of them are partial solutions, but we're seeing them fully solved in some cases. We have three fully solved problems, actually four now, right? With the new problem that was solved, if that gets accepted, that would be four, if I understand correctly. Notice mainly it's ChatGPT 5.2, often 5.2 Pro. That's the one that's really driving a lot of these solutions. And again, note the dates, right? It's November and December 2025 and January 2026. So just the last few months. So GPT 5.
Well, that's when they started doing it, right? Did they track it from before? There's only one.
And January 2026. So just the last few months. So GPT 5.2 officially came out in December 11th, 2025. So exactly 30 days ago, it was probably available for research use before that. So I think we can say that's the first model that is able to make a dent in these unproven, unsolved math problems. Then we have kind of another category. So these are fully AI generated solutions to problems that were thought open, but for which an earlier human solution was found, right? So an LM solves it, but then later they're like, oh, actually a human solved it previously. So they list the number of them. So this is meaningful, but maybe we don't know if ChatGPT found some information online, found that proof, and then used it, or it was in its data somehow, or it was completely new. Notice here they're asking, is it similar proofs? And in these two cases, yes. So here maybe it was copied or somehow they used the existing proof to write their own. But this one, it says no. So it seems like it's a completely different approach. And we have a third category. These are AI generated tools applied to problems previously known to be solved or partially solved. And notice here in some of these cases, using things like alpha proof, for example, we're finding new proofs. So we had an existing one from 1975, but the AI found a new way of doing it. And there
Okay, when he says new, okay, it's just new compared to this one here. Okay, it could be like uh, something that is similar to something else that has inside of its training data set. Just new to this here. It's not as big as that because, as we know, it can't produce anything new.
there are a number of those. So the green circles, it means that it's completely new. And we also have the category number 4, solutions generated by humans in collab with AI. By the way, here, they're only talking about the air dish problems as far as I can tell. We've seen some other examples of people doing work in other fields in math, but, not underneath these set of problems. The credited, in that case, I believe it was GPT, maybe not 5.2 because it was early in the year, but maybe it was
That's
one of the
sad.
earlier versions of the GPT. Specifically, I'm referring to Scott Aaronson's. Here's his post. This was in September of 2025. And so you can read it for yourself because there's some, asterisks there. But here's the important line here. He's saying, this is the first paper I've ever put out for which a key technical step in the proof of the main result came from AI, specifically from GPT-5 thinking. Okay, so that's yet another example. Then category number 5, problems with AI-powered literature review. And there's a few green circles here as well, as you can see, quite a bit actually, and a lot of yellows. 6 is proofs that were formalized by AI, and we have all of these here. And 7, human solutions with some secondary AI tool uses. There was a few here as well, and some other ones. But the point, as I scroll up, notice the dates, right? It's all either beginning of 2026 or very end of 2025. Here's where a human used some tool use. I mean, we're specifically talking more about like the brand new discoveries, right? All of these, right? AI generated solutions, autonomous solutions. Notice it's all either late November, December 2025, or, the first few weeks of this year, 2026. So this is brand new capabilities. We didn't have this 3 months ago. Briefly coming back to Terrence Howe's post here.
Yeah, but you just said that GPT 5.2 released in December. I mean, it's not impressive. There's a new model. I don't
As
get
he's
it.
saying here, in the beginning, he said that this problem was solved more or less autonomously by AI. But deeper in here, he's talking about, something different. He's saying, but to me, the more interesting capability revealed by these events is the ability to rapidly write and rewrite new versions of a text as needed, even if one was not the original author of the argument. So
Are you saying he did that on its own? Or it was part of the exchange that you asked, and because you had it rewrite new versions of like the same idea after you prompted it? I mean, I feel like they're mixing up a lot of stuff here, and I
even
don't
if
know.
AI
Maybe I'm
wasn't
too
able to
stupid
autonomously discover new
for it.
things, just the ability for it to be used kind of like Photoshop for math, I guess. I'm not sure what the exact analogy is, but there's tons of tools that make it
It was
easier for, let's say,
a
you're a photographer or a
Wolfram
graphics
Alpha
designer. There's stuff that makes it easier for you to do your job. You're able to create templates and create layers, edit different layers. So if you have an image, you don't have to start each one from scratch. Excel is another good example, right? If you change one formula, a lot of times there's logic that updates how that's reflected throughout the sheet. With a lot of these math papers, if I understand correctly, right, if somebody gives you some feedback about one particular thing that might impact other portions of the paper, the poor professor, the poor mathematician has to completely basically like rewrite everything and update everything. Basically, there's a lot of work that can be automated by LLMs that would be very helpful to mathematicians.
Yeah, but the thinking here is still done by the mathematician. Like, what is so crazy
Even
here?
if it's not generating brand new solutions, it just allows for automation of the mind-numbingly boring, difficult tasks that can be automated. If you never saw the movie Moneyball, it's actually a pretty good movie. Basically, this math nerd goes into baseball back in the days when they didn't really use a statistical analysis. They didn't really use advanced calculations to figure stuff out. You just had kind of old school coaches looking at players, seeing how they do, and just kind of going with their gut. And he was able to use kind of the statistics, the math, to see a lot of things that were hidden if you weren't kind of parsing it through with math, if you were just trying kind of to observe it. So there's this idea of being able to quantify stuff, whether that's, athletes or stocks, industries, economies, etc. Math is the underlying kind of foundational level to a lot of the universe. Him coming in, this one person with a computer, some coding skills, and some understanding of statistics, comes in and basically flips the entire sport on its head because he's able to see strategies and make decisions that the other people can't even comprehend. They're just not able to see what he is able to see. And we've seen this happen in a lot of other industries, right? Investments. I actually got kind of curious. The point is, when math comes for certain industries, those industries are transformed, right? Finance is an obvious one, the rise of the quants. Right before the 1970s, trading was dominated by intuition, tips, and fundamental analysis, right? We're studying the company's business model. Now, a lot of that is obviously disrupted because we tend to use math and
You know, that's interesting, right? It is interesting because here we have like um a pretty good example of the dangers of having these models be prone to hallucination or just rely on them exactly for confirmation, you know. Is this the whole prompt? Math disrupts industries beyond baseball? I mean, we don't see the prompt. This saddens me so much.
model. Now, a lot of that is obviously disrupted because we tend to use math and quantitative analysis, quantitative research.
Did you have to do what's it called? Reinforce human GPT. It's always in the picture. Reinforced logic, human feedback, learning from human feedback. Ay, ay, ay.
To make decisions about the movement of markets. We can create algorithmic trading, etc. Logistics was a big one. There's a lot of people that in the 90s, I think, started using machine learning to try to figure out what are the best routes for delivery vans to get to where they were going with the least amount
Oh shit, why didn't they call that AI in the 90s?
of time and fuel used. And then the drivers would follow those routes. One of the biggest things that they discovered is you never want to turn left. If you're driving on the right side of the road, you want to take right turns wherever possible. So if you're laying out a route and you can eliminate as many left turns as possible, that route is likely going to be much more efficient. Agriculture and precision farming, politics, campaign resource optimization, etc. dating got turned into an algorithm. Ads, this was a huge one for me because back in the days, I used to work doing online ads. You would design pages and test conversion rates, right? You would split test different versions of it. You would buy traffic, buy media from big online sources, put them to your website and see if you can convert them into a sale. And I saw this firsthand because there were people that used to do marketing, for 50 years and they kind of had, oh, like I know this stuff. I have a gut feeling about it. And working in that field, I quickly realized that most of the time they had no clue what they were talking about. It was a coin toss. The way to figure out what ads would work or what layout would work, what pricing would work would be to test it on actual customers because that gave you real statistically relevant
Feedback.
results that you could trust that they were going to work moving forward, not just a hunch or guess. So that means that when we take smart people and, we give them some math abilities, right? We teach them some math. We give them, calculators and Excel spreadsheets, computers, whatever, right? They tend to optimize certain industries, disrupt certain industries, figure out how to do stuff better. And of course, understanding of math kind of goes up over time. Our ability to produce better machines and calculators and computers goes up over time. The number of humans, smart humans, is very limited, but it also tends to go up over time.
All right, so here it is nonsensical. The alleged solution here is quantum computers, right? If you're specifically talking about logistic, routing, planning a delivery route, it's quantum physics because it's supposed to be able to try all the possibilities at the same time. Compute to calculate bee honeybee trajectory. Calculating honeybee trajectories requires significant computational power, typically rely on GPU accelerated systems, highly variable. I don't know, man. This is my own confirmation bias. The thing is, it takes a lot of computing to try to do that. I mean, maybe having a 10 gigawatt data center is going to fix everything. 100 billion data center.
And so our ability to sort of quant the world is
GPT 5.2 just solved the Erdos problems. I mean, here it seems like it solved everything.
sort of has been.
And it's as if, there was impossibly hard or impossible. There were just a mathematician's conjecture, something he said while he was with his buddies. When did Erdo come up with his problems? Oh, not Erdogan. With his math problems. He was a prolific problem poser, collaborator. Okay, sorry. He collaborated with over 500 mathematicians and published more than 1,500 papers. many of which posed new questions and conjectures. Number theory, combinatorics, graph theory, set theory. So these problems, they're an expert's speculation on what might be true. It's not as if it was like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that crazy of an achievement.
improving over time, right? Understanding of math, better technology, etc. Right. So over time, this might have been our ability for humans to improve various technology and industries, etc. over time by using math. And here comes AI, specifically these neural nets, and so for a long time they weren't as good as
Neural network. Why is it supposed to be an AI model? Why? Because that's what he said, right? He said neural network. Why your stupid ass AI says here brain inspired AI model. Here the classical definition is for machine learning, right? These are based on early work in statistics over 200 years ago. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old grumpy ass.
humans at doing that. You always needed a human in the loop. They might have been useful tools, but they weren't able to autonomously drive research and understanding forward. And
Just so you know, it's still not the case.
then, right about now, in the last few months, it kind of went like this, it seems. I don't know if you say that
I know you can say it seems and all, but it has not done that. They just said that there were multiple iterations and it had to write and rewrite. So the mathematician said something, looked at the answer, said it's not quite it, prompted and reprompted.
these models are necessarily better than humans, but we're seeing the beginning of this transition to where these models are at least as good as the world's best mathematicians, maybe are even getting better in some ways. But here's the thing, here's the kind of big difference, the important thing to grasp about AI. When we compare human mathematicians, researchers versus AI researchers, let's assume they're equal in their abilities, right? We're not even saying AI is better. We're not even looking at that. Let's say they're equal. With AI, we can run a million copies. We can't clone a human,
Oh
just
yeah, that would be
control C,
great.
control V, a bunch of
There would
smart
be
researchers. We can.
there would be like major progress. But if it's so intelligent and you've trained it with all the data that exists, why can't it just look inwards and give the answer? Why do you have to prompt it for it? You know, why do you have to reprompt it and have it rewrite it and have partial answers and have anything but 100%?
And with these large language models, there's a cost, electricity, GPUs, etc. But you can infinitely clone them. They work 24/7 without getting tired. They might even work at faster speeds than humans, 10x, 100x, who knows? These machines
So this is not like the
can
same
read every
capabilities
paper
anymore.
ever written. Like, just imagine if they can just read every paper that was ever written in the
Hasn't hasn't it like already did that?
field of math, maybe even every blog post or book or anything written by mathematicians.
Isn't it supposed to already be trained on all of that?
That ability to kind of see the entire playing field and maybe kind of synthesize ideas would be, in and of itself, a pretty powerful thing. They can, of course, write tons of proofs and modifications, expand all the stuff that we have, like expand how well it's organized and explained. They can write whatever code is needed to run experiments. And all of this comes from just one model, right? So, like right now, most of the progress came from GPT 5.2 that we've seen with these air dish problems. So it's not like every single lab has to produce the greatest mathematical model of all time. We just need one, right? You have one, you make a million copies.
Okay, and you're reliant on one company. That sounds pretty
It
fucked
runs
up.
24/7 at 10x the speed of a human researcher. It has access to all of the human data. It can create entire libraries of text that it can access and run experiments, etc. So that's something to think about as, let's say, this red line is our AI progress, the abilities of these AI models, right? It's kind of going past the abilities of your average intelligence human. And it's rapidly approaching and in many ways already exceeding that of a high intelligence human, at least in the areas that it's kind of trained for, right? It's getting really good at coding, it's getting really good at math. So as it's doing that, right, there's going to be a lot of industries that are going to be impacted just like the previous industries that were impacted by quants, just like we talked about. That might mean some scary developments. Think about, for example, that being applied to something like a lawsuit, right? Each lawsuit becomes almost like a stock or an asset that is quantified.
Oh man. Can chat GPT 5.2 say wrong things? It is not infireable and is known to produce incorrect, nonsensical, or misleading information, a phenomenon often called hallucination. If it has any hallucination, it can't do none of the shit that they market. If you have to retrain a model, if you have to train a new model, there is no intelligence. Broad capacity to learn. Jesus Christ, it fails on the first criteria. Understand, obviously not. Reason, obviously not. Solve problems, might seem like it, but it's not solving the problem. Adapt to new situations. This is actually the reason why it is able to solve problems, right? Because it's not a new situation. It is most likely something that is inside of the training data, the logic. Can LLM produce new things? I mean, you can tell that the overview, the AI overview, is meant for people that don't understand shit. I mean, this is absolutely nonsensical. LLMs can produce novel outputs by recombining existing data. What do you mean in creative ways? I mean, shut up. Shut up. Um, I don't have the strength to get mad today. You're just bothering me.
Viable by risk and cost and ROI. I mean, that's kind of scary to think about, right? Maybe there's going to be some firm out there that's utilizing AI just to find the highest reward, lowest risk lawsuits, and then either taking on themselves or just providing that service to the lawyers, right? Hey, here's a basket of cases that have a very high chance of netting you millions with a little work and low risk of failing.
That is the greatest contribution to humanity. You got a tool that you could sell to lawyers so they can maximize their profits. That sounds like what everybody needs now, especially now. Especially now. I'm going to be so happy to know that those lawyers, they're going to eat great while we'll never be able to own a fucking house. That sounds just brilliant.
and just selling that data to the lawyers, I mean, that could really mess up the legal system. There's tons of places where it can be much better with medicine, for example, the ability to kind of do that n equals 1 trials and optimizing for each person's unique chemistry based on
There's this project for, what's it called? E. Molecule folds proteins. No, molecular folds. All right. So this here, right? Folded. So this has been built as an online video game. Okay, so anybody who wants to can play with it. They can do it. Okay. And the whole thing is that if you fold the protein in a certain way, you might get like I don't want to talk through my ass, but okay, there it is. This structure prediction through the gamification of the folding of this model is important in multiple fields of science: bioinformatics, molecular biology, medicine. And so it enables us to understand better the folds, creating novel proteins by design, advances in treating diseases, solutions for other real world problems, such as invasive species waste and pollution. And so this here, you could just shove a computer and have it run a model that just, fold it, keep folding it. There is a benefit to it. But the thing is, I mean, there's already people doing that, and 57,000 players provided useful results that match or outperform algorithmically computed solutions. Why? Because you have 57,000 people who did a whole bunch of shit. I mean, are you going to be able to have 57,000 different sets of instructions for the folding? I know you said that you can multiply everything by infinite, but if you give the same prompt to all of them, I mean, you're just going to get one result, right? I mean, this is beautiful. The goal is beautiful. It has it's a purpose. Honestly, I just don't feel like this has anything to do with it. We're just making it out to be so much bigger than it really is.
their blood work and genome, etc. That could be huge. Right now, we have no idea if our specific metabolism and genetic structure. Maybe we shouldn't be eating certain foods or doing certain things that are bad for us, and just a few tweaks might
How you're gonna know if the model is just trained with the fucking information we produced?
make us a lot healthier and better. But we have no idea.
How come one little tweak would make us so much? Bro, I slouch so much all the fucking time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot what I said.
They're bad for us in just a few tweaks.
What the fuck do you think a few tweak is going to change? Like, do you believe that because you start eating a specific fruit or something, you're gonna start levitating or fucking get telekinesis? What would a little tweak change in your fucking life? Our bodies are fucking resilience machines. You've had people survive in the worst conditions, all sorts of worst conditions. Like, what is your goal with your little tweak? Oh, man. I don't know.
Weeks might make us a lot healthier and better, but we have no idea. The data is probably
Like, you're talking about monetizing shit like right away. What you want people to pay to get a private company to receive their medical data, their most private and personal information, and pay for them to analyze it so they tell you that, man, you should really eat more blueberries and less strawberries, and maybe don't smoke. And people have a real concerns. This is not one of them.
out there. There's just no way to kind of sort it and comb it and give it to people in actionable little bites. With infrastructure, it will completely, I think, revolutionize everything. Just think about how we construct things. There's probably a million different ways in which our buildings and designs aren't efficient because we have to have
Yo, revolution happens when people tell you something is going to revolutionize something. Doesn't really happen.
highly paid human.
You know what's one big revolution I was convinced was gonna happen?
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Yo. Hey, hey, hey.
What's up, 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 Big Johnny? Whoa,
Yo.
whoa, 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 what's up?
Oh, man.
No, no, no. Be connect. Wow. Be connect. Be connect.
Oh, man. Fuck, that guy's a fucking legend.
Working on them. What if it was very fast and cheap to create efficient designs for homes, for energy grids, for every single part on a car or on a house or anything? What if those designs could be improved? What if your mask could be 15% better and your steering wheel 10% better? What if every single thing that you see out in the world that's technology that's
Right. We got enchitification, which makes everything 90% shittier. We got what's it called? Shrinkflation, which makes everything 15% every 2 weeks smaller. Do you honestly believe that any corporation that would have access to that type of shit will use it like that? Do you remember fucking program obsolescence? Like, what's going on? This is not leading to anything good for us.
Human made can be made more efficient, more durable with better materials, whatever that means. We just don't have enough sort of cumulative break capacity across the entire world to think deeply about every single tiny little design decision that people make. These AIs might change that. It might be cheap intelligence for every process that we run. And of course, it will also apply to all of the industries that we've talked about, to
Yes, with hallucinations and errors and false positive and mistakes. That sounds just fucking great. I'm telling you, what's gonna happen is that this is just gonna be normalized after enough generation has passed. People won't know any different, and that's gonna be reality.
finance, to logistics, to ads and agriculture and baseball and just everything, everything, everything. So, anyways, wild times ahead. We are here and it's getting interesting. Don't sleep on this. If you made this far, thank you so much for watching. My name is Wes Ralph. I'll see you in the next one.